This video is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but who cares? This is the internet. We have a tendency of speaking our minds, and I have been around long enough to know no matter what you do or what you say, somebody is not going to like you for whatever reason, okay? I want to talk about my man, Charlie Kirk, and why I support him and why I stand for him and will continue to pray for his family as a black man. Now, I had to add that part in there because social media and the internet will try to convince a lot of you out there that if you support Charlie Kirk, you must be a Trump supporter, you must be racist, you must be white. When in actuality, social media and the internet does not speak for everybody. And most important of all, social media and the internet does not speak for every black American. Darn sure doesn't speak for me. Now, let me give you a little bit of rundown on me before I continue with this video. I have always been the type of person to march to my own beat. I've never fallen into the crowds. I've never done the typical things. I was always outcast, in my younger years for not being dark enough. And interestingly enough, the darker, blacks would always give me a hard time. Yellow boy, unbaked cookie. I've heard a lot of different things. Half breed, I've heard just a lot. So, yeah, had to deal with all of that growing up. Needless to say, it caused me to have a bit of a different logic and think a little bit differently than a lot of people and look at the world from a different lens because I knew something was wrong at a young age. And even now, I raise my kids in a manner to where we don't look at color, but we listen to reason. We practice logical tactics, and we don't just go off of our emotions. We don't go off of the color of skin. We don't go off of internet. We go off of what we know and what we hear, okay? That is how we live our life. That is how we make our decisions, and that is how we draw our conclusions in my home, okay? So, let's get on to the topic. Why do I support Charlie Kirk? I have watched many debates in its context, in its entirety, not just a 10-second snippet or a 10-second clip. We're not doing that. You have a bad habit of doing that, taking a little bit of something and running with it and saying that it's something else, twisting it to fit your narrative. I've listened to a lot of his conversations with college students, black, white, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. I've listened to them all. Not all, but I've listened to a lot, enough. I've done my research. And I do not believe that this man was a racist. I don't see it. For those of you who say that he was and you're black, you need to come at me a little bit more than with a clip of him saying something out of context to prove that he was a racist, because telling the truth about particular communities is not racist. The people that are screaming that are individuals who are getting in their feelings and who don't want to admit, man, this guy's right. He's telling the truth, because data doesn't lie. Statistics, they don't lie. And when you're not used to hearing the truth, and he did put it in a very unique way, he gave it to you straight with no chaser, it can hurt. It can sting a bit. It can make you feel some type of way. And the black community, I'm just being real because I come from it. We don't like any type of accountability. We don't like to hear the truth because it does hurt. It does sting. Now you can get, if that makes you upset and that makes you angry, then I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But again, I grew up in it. I grew up around it. I've witnessed it. I've practiced it in my younger years. So I know that it's true. That accountability is something that is not practiced in the black community. I wish it was. I would love to see it because I'm so tired of our younger black males going to jail for stupid stuff. I'm so tired of our younger black females, sleeping with these men who really have no type of sense for their future. They're not trying to do anything to better the community. They're just thinking about themselves. And it's just, I wish that it was better, but that's a whole nother conversation in itself. Let's stick to Charlie. This was a man who practiced Christianity, conservative views, which are views that do line up with myself, because I don't dibble and dabble into politics a lot, but my beliefs do line up, my Christian beliefs do line up with conservative views. And that's just the way that I lean. I don't lean to the left. I don't lean liberal. I just don't. A lot of what they believe in and a lot of what they practice goes against my personal beliefs. But now we're at a point in time where if you say that, people, they get so pissed off and so angry and call you every name in the book, and now losing your life because of a different point of view. I stand with Charlie because this man, he stood on what it was he believed in. He stood on his business. He stood his ground and came with receipts and came with facts and came with truth. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like people on the left to kick and scream and get angry, right? When they hear something that goes against what it is they believe in, that goes against their narrative. There's something that doesn't support what it is they're going for. That there's anger, there's rage, there's disarray, there's now taking people out. That's at the point that we're at right now. I can get behind somebody who's not afraid of what the masses will say. I can get behind somebody that's not afraid of pushback. I can get behind somebody that stands on truth and that does not buckle for the culture, that does not buckle under the pressure, that doesn't do any of that stuff, but just stands rooted in what it is they believe. I can get behind somebody like that. You know what I mean? And once again, I think the biggest reason that I support him and I get behind him is the reaction that I have witnessed from people who celebrate his death, who talk down on what he stood for, who have no remorse or sympathy for his family. And to me, that is inhumane. That's evil, folks. That is pure evil and wicked. And to me, that there's no way in the world that I could possibly get behind people who treat humans like that, regardless of how you felt about the person, okay? We're not talking about somebody who was a criminal. We're not talking about somebody who went out here causing trouble in society. We're not talking about somebody who was a problem. We're talking about an individual who had an opinion, who stood firmly on his beliefs, and was very educated in that, and who always came with the logic and the reasoning and the receipts, and who just was always well prepared for an answer, and who stood on it with confidence too. You gotta give it to them. You know, anybody that stands on what they believe with confidence, and that does not have to call names, and that does not have to get violent and angry, that's a person of reason that you can listen to, and that is the reason why I support him. I will never support people who choose to act in violence. I will never support people who choose to call you names. I will never support people who choose to just get irrational just because something is said that doesn't support their narrative. Like, to say, hey, we agree to disagree. That's not even practiced anymore, folks. People don't agree to disagree. They don't. They don't. It's now I don't agree with you. I hate you. I want you unalived. That is where we are right now. Okay? At least on one side of the pendulum. On the other side, the side that I stand on, I'm still ready to have conversations. I'm still ready to try to find some middle ground. I'm still ready to find a solution. That's where I'm at. I'm not going to dox people. I'm not going to try to get you fired from your job. I'm not going to try to bust your window of your car. I'm not going to slash your tires. I'm not going to spray paint over, your business. Just really, really immature, demonic, evil, wicked stuff. I'm not doing that. That's not Christ-like. That's wrong. That's illegal. That's breaking the law. But you can't do these things just because someone has a difference of opinion. And this man died because he had a difference in opinion. Someone thought enough to break the law just because he had a difference in opinion. And some of you are wondering, why are people still talking about this man? Because in the wake of his death, it has opened the eyes of even people who disagree with him to say, wow, now they actually went too far. They actually went too far. There are people who are saying they are embarrassed to say that they're on the left side, right? Because this individual who took Charlie out apparently was engaged, or girlfriend is a transgender or something. I'm like, well, I'm not surprised. I'm really not. Because this is the side that continuously complains about mental health, continuously complains about being confused, that continuously complains about things not going their way, and just not willing to reason, not willing to be logical, and that's where we are right now. It went too far. And the thing about it is that Charlie he's not going to be the only person that this happens to. What's that old saying? We don't die, we multiply. What happened to him is going to inspire other young men and women to stand up and to speak out and to continue to stand on truth, all while there will be others who lose it and who want to take out other people who speak. Pay attention. Pay attention. Whether you are a liberal or a conservative, pay attention to how people react when it comes to conversation. Pay attention to the actions in which they do when it comes to conversation. Just talking, just putting out words, just stating facts. Look at how people react. If you notice that there is an increase of violence during conversations, if you notice that there are outbursts of rage from conversations, like, take note of those things. And then pay attention to what side you see that come from. And then make your decision as far as where you stand. Okay? As for me, I will always stand for truth. I will always stand for biblical principles. I don't care about what people think about that. I don't care what people say, because at the end of the day, I answer to God. I don't answer to people. I don't care about what people like. I just don't, because people don't pay my bills. When I die, I'm not gonna see any of you. I'm gonna be in front of God, and I have to answer to Him. That's why I say, whatever you believe, stand on it. Just make sure that you're on the right side of the fence. Now, some of you might think that's subjective, but again, we're living in a time period where people can't even tell the difference between good and bad, that they mix it up, and that they're so confused that they can't even tell what's right or wrong anymore. But you know in your heart what's right, and you know in your heart what's wrong. Be smart, wise up, and just be diligent, man, because the days that we're living in right now are freaking crazy and evil. It's bad out here. But stand on truth no matter what.